Hi guys and welcome to today's video. So today I'm going to talk to you about all the books that I read in February. So in February I read 6 books, which is one less book than last month, but I did read more pages than I read last month in February, if that makes sense. Okay, so in January I read 1,884 pages, and this month in February I read 2,218. So that's just over 300 more than I read last month. So that's like a whole nother book than I read last month, but I think these books I read this month were longer. So the first book I read is this, which is Catcher in the Rye, and I read this. This was actually a reread. I've read it before. I read it when I was on my gap year, but I reread it for one of my modules, and I am planning on writing about it in my end of term essay. I'm pretty sure everyone knows about Catcher in the Rye. It's basically about this boy who's about 16, 17 called Holden, and it's basically about his mental health and his experiences at school and living in New York. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it the first time I read it, and I enjoyed it again, and I gave this... Yeah, I do really enjoy this book, but I did only give it 3.5 stars. I'm not entirely sure why, but I don't think it quite reaches a 4 for me. But it is a good book, and it's not that long, so I don't think it took that long to read. I do think it's well written as well, because it's written from first person perspective, which I think is quite difficult to write convincingly from a teenager's perspective unless you are a teenager yourself. So would definitely recommend this if you haven't read it, as it is a classic and you probably should. The next book I read was... This is well, it's called a trilogy, but there's 5 in them, so I don't know if you'd actually call it a trilogy. But this is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. My boyfriend got me this for my birthday. As you can see, it's so big because there's 5 books in it, but I read the first one because it's on my book poster of 100 books you should read. And I've kept my bookmark in there because I do plan on reading the rest of them. I actually really enjoyed this, and I wrote it down as my favourite book that I read this month, just because it was really easy to read and it was really different to anything I've read before. I don't normally read sci-fi, and it was a bit all over the place, but you could follow along relatively easily, and it really did not take me that long to read. I think when I sat down to read it, it maybe took me a couple of hours, and as you can see, the first book in here is that big. The writing's not huge or anything, but it is only 100 and something pages. It only took me a couple of hours. So I'd recommend that if you're into sci-fi, or even if you don't read sci-fi, because I really don't. I would recommend, because it was quite funny, easy to read, just really random, honestly. And I am going to try and... I'm planning on reading the other 4 during the course of this year as well. So if you want to know what I think about the other ones, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I will definitely be talking about them at some point. So the next book I read is... Oh, I just realised I read this on an audiobook, but I do actually have the book. Hang on, I'm back. The next book I read was this, which is The Well of Lonliness by Radclyffe. This again is quite a hefty book, which is why I found it online as an audiobook, just because I didn't think I would stick with it if I read the whole thing. It is just over 400 pages, which maybe isn't that long, but I don't know, I personally thought I wouldn't stick with it if I tried to read it physically. I did listen to it, and I think I enjoyed it. I'm not entirely sure. My lecturer kept talking about it and saying that it was a good book to read for the course as an extra reading, which is the main reason I wrote it. Wrote it? I didn't write it. I read it. But it's basically about the life of this girl. It's about this life of this girl called Stephen, who is born into a very wealthy family, and from the beginning of her life she feels like she's a bit different. She doesn't really get on with her mum, and it basically follows her journey through discovering her sexuality and moving to Paris and being in a few different relationships. I think I did enjoy it. I think that it was quite a good explanation of how same-sex relationships were treated at the time, and also how people were becoming to be maybe a little bit more accepting of them. So if that's a topic that interests you, then I definitely recommend this book. I actually had 2 lecturers recommend it to me, so I'd check this out if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, I actually really liked listening to it as well, because the girl that was doing the audio did different accents as well, although one of the characters is Welsh in it, and honestly the accent she was putting on was not Welsh. I was so confused, I couldn't figure out what she was doing until after the character had been in it for 3 chapters. she mentioned that she was Welsh, I was like, okay, that's what you were trying to do. But yeah. Oh, I forgot to say what I rated those two. I rated Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy a 4 and I rated The Well of Loneliness a 3. The next book I read was, and I don't have this because it was an ebook that I downloaded from the library, but that was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which is the 4th Harry Potter. If you didn't know already, if you don't watch my channel and you're new here, I have never read Harry Potter, so I'm currently in the process of reading all of them. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed the Goblet of Fire. I think it might be my favourite one so far. It's the one with the Triwizard Tournament, which was really interesting, and we had some new characters who are like the same age as Harry and his friends, or like roughly, because they'd come from different countries and different schools to compete in the Triwizard Tournament. Yeah, definitely my favourite one so far, and would definitely recommend. I don't feel like I need to recommend Harry Potter because I feel like everyone in the world other than me has read it. But if you'd like me, once I've finished all 7, which will be this year, because I'm already on the 5th one, except I left it too long and it expired from the library and someone else has nabbed it, so I have to wait a month till I can get it again, because I just don't see the point in, I don't really want to pay for it when it's like free on the library. But yeah, if you want me to do like a review of the whole Harry Potter series once I've finished, then let me know in the comments down below. And I think I will do it if you guys are interested, so yeah, make sure you subscribe as well to see that in the next few months. I'm hoping to have finished them all by the time I finish uni, which is currently the beginning of March, so April, May. Maybe not by the time I finish uni because that's only 2 months. That's actually really scary. Yeah, 2 months tomorrow is when all my essays are due in. I've finished uni in 2 months tomorrow, that's really scary. Okay, I've only just realised that. That Harry Potter book I rated a 4. The next one I read, again, was for my course, and it is this, which is The Group by Mary McCarthy. This follows a group of women who have just graduated from Vassar at the beginning, and their different lives in New York. And some of them go to other places, but we only really see what happens in New York, and follow some of their like families. It mainly focuses on their relationships. And this took me quite a while to read. Like, it is quite a hefty book, but I was expecting it to be quite like quick to get through. It was 437 pages. This took me ages. I think I was reading it for like a month before I got through it all. I think because each chapter it changes which character it's focusing on, and they're all linked together, the characters, because they've gone to Vassar together, but because there's such a large cast of characters, it's kind of difficult to keep tabs on which one was which, or at least I struggled with that. I think I did like it. I didn't see the end coming. The end surprised me quite a bit, but overall, if you like kind of, oh, I forgot to say, it's set in the 1930s as well, so it's not modern. So if you like kind of like 1930s New York, like all of the girls are quite, not necessarily upper class, I mean they've been educated at college, but some of them aren't overly wealthy, but they're all very sophisticated. If that's your kind of novel, then I definitely recommend this. And I personally gave that a 3.5 stars, because I did kind of like it, but I didn't want to give it as low as a 3, but it definitely wasn't a 4 for me. The next book I read was Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I hadn't read it before, and I know that it's like a classic, so I thought that I should. Again, it's on my book poster, which like over there you can't see it, and I saw that it was there on my library's audiobook thing, so I decided just to nab it off there and listen to it, because it was only like a 10-hour book. I did watch the first episode of, you know, they did the series, I can't remember whether it was ITV or Channel 4 a couple of years ago, and I wasn't overly sure on it. I think I'm gonna go back and try and watch that, having now read the books. I did really enjoy it. It's a, if you haven't read it or haven't watched it, heard about it, it's basically a dystopian America. I don't even know if it's necessarily the whole of America or whether it's just a certain state, but relationships are controlled by the government as such, and different women, depending on, I assume their class, I'm not entirely sure, get given different roles depending on like where they sit. So some of them are there to produce babies for their like master, and it just follows one of the girls in that and her story. I did really enjoy it, except that it left it on a massive cliffhanger at the end, and I'm not the biggest fan of cliffhangers, because I then went and looked, because I saw that she's released recently like a follow-on book, and I was like, oh well, hopefully that would be like a direct follow-on, so like questions will be answered. But I had a read of the description, and it's a completely different story set in the same world like years later. So let me know if you've read, I think it's called The Testaments. Let me know if you think I should read it having followed on from The Handmaid's Tale. Like, if you think it's a good follow-up, then let me know, and I'll make sure I like purchase a copy and I can have a little read of it. Yeah, I did enjoy it, but I was disappointed with the ending because I like my questions to be answered. I gave that a 4.5, which I think is the highest rating so far out of... Did I give it a 4.5? Yeah, I did give it a 4.5, which is the highest rating of this month because I did enjoy it, and also I do love a good book that's not too long, and obviously, like, if the audiobook was 10 hours, I assume the book itself isn't that thick. Anyway, that is everything that I've read in February. So in total I read 6 books, and I've already started, it's currently the 5th of March whilst I'm filming this, and I've already started with my March books. I'm already 2 down and it's only the 5th. I'm hoping that I can maybe do more than 6 this month, but we'll see. I have started reading Hidden Bodies by Catherine Kepnes, the follow-on from the You book. Also yesterday when I was in Tesco, I bought the Flatshare because I've seen quite a few people on BookTube talking about that. If you'd like to see what my thoughts on those are, then don't forget to subscribe again. You see my video next month. If you have any suggestions for videos that you would like to see from me, whether it be book related, uni related, beauty related, or just like life related, then please let me know, and I will see you in my next video.